Hello, my name is Eric Eichhoff, and I serve as the Associate Director for Alumni Relations at John Carroll University. Thank you for joining us for our next installment of the John Carroll University Alumni Author Series. The Alumni Author Series was launched in November of 2020 as a way to highlight those who've written books, articles, poems, and screenplays, and other written works within the John Carroll University alumni community. We have been blown away by the interest in our program and from our community, and we are excited about the future of this unique series. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Valentina Sgro, a member of the John Carroll University class of 1977. Valentina Sgro earned her Bachelor of Science in Business Administration degree with a major in accounting from John Carroll University and her Juris Doctor Law degree from the University of Michigan. Valentina is a 23-year veteran of the professional organizing industry and served a combination of 14 years on the board of directors of the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals and the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, 2 years as president. After 17 years working with both residential and business clients, Val now devotes her efforts to bringing the field of professional organizing into popular culture through novels, short stories, and other media featuring her protagonist, Patience Oaktree. Her first novel, Patience and the Porsche, won the Best Organizing Book Award in 2008 from the Los Angeles Organizing Awards. You can learn more about Valentina and read her first 2 chapters of all 3 of Patience Oaktree novels at reallyorganized.com. Now onto our conversation. Hello, Val. It's great to see you today. Thank you so much for being with us. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and about your books?
Sure. It's great to be here and thanks for having me. The audio was cutting out a little, but I hope it holds for us. Yeah, I think in the introduction, you explained that I had an accounting degree from John Carroll, so I don't need to go into that. I'll start with when I became a professional organizer, which was after I took a brief break from the practice of law and wanted to get back into the workforce. I'm a little bit of a control freak. I was looking for something I could do on my own. My business degree certainly helped me because I knew I could run a business. And I was looking for a career with some flexible hours. So I thought I'd try professional organizing, something that interested me. I told myself I would try it for 5 years and see how I liked it. And here I am 24 years later. My books are the organizing adventures of Patience Oaktree, who is my fictional protagonist. They're what I like to call G-rated books with a little bit of romance and mystery. They let the reader know what it's like to hire a professional organizer. They let you know what it's like to be a professional organizer. They let you know how to get organized, all rather subliminally. I like to call it edutainment. And I frequently tell people the books make good gifts because they're the only organizing books I know of that you could give to somebody that doesn't say, "Happy birthday, you're a mess, get organized."
Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your background and your protagonist, Patience Oaktree. Tell me a little bit more about why you decided to write this book series. What was your inspiration, and were there other authors that you have read in the past that maybe you stylized your writing or characters after?
Yeah, those are really good questions. So first, how I got into this. I was serving on the board of the National Association of Professional Organizers at the time. In 2004, I was commissioned to write a nonfiction book for a major publishing company as part of an organizing series they were doing. And so I got involved in that, and I went through the whole process and learned what it was all like. And like I said, it was supposed to be a series. And the person who was promoting the series at the publishing company left the company, leaving the series pretty much high and dry. And the whole time I was writing it, they had said they didn't want any humor in the book. because I think they were trying to distinguish themselves from some other series that were out at the time. I recall that I wrote three jokes into the book, and two of them were edited out. And I'm convinced the other one must not have been funny, or they probably would have caught it and gotten rid of it as well. But anyway, I wrote the book. I actually even did a presentation about it at one of the John Carroll alumni weekends back in, I think it was 2000, probably would have been 2006 or 2007 that I did that. And my father was very, very proud that I had written the book. And every time I would see him, he would say, "How are the sales? And how's the book doing?" And the whole marketing program had been dropped. And so I just kept saying to him, "Dad, it's not going to be a bestseller." And he said, "Well, you should write fiction. Fiction sells." And he just kept telling me that. And I kept saying, "Dad, I'm a technical writer. I was in the law. I write technical, I write contracts. I used to, in elementary school, write a lot of creative writing, but I don't do that anymore." He kept saying, "Fiction sells. You should write fiction." Well, you hear something enough. And one morning I was just laying in bed thinking, I was on the board of NAPO. We were trying to figure out how to get the word out about what professional organizers did. This is before all the reality shows on TV about it. And I thought, well, if there's a good book with a fictional character who's a professional organizer, this is going to resonate with people and help our profession. So I took a deep breath and I said, well, I can't write War and Peace. I can't write, great literature. But I had been reading at the time, and this goes to the question you asked me who I modeled my books after. I was reading at the time the Number One Ladies Detective Agency series by Alexander McCall Smith. And anybody who's familiar with those, they're really kind of slice of life stories. It's just the day-to-day goings on with kind of a, there's a plot woven into it, but it's not the driving force behind the books. And I thought, well, I could write something like that, slice of life about a fictional character. And so I started writing, and as I told you before we started this conversation today, I was driven by this desire to be the first professional organizer to write a novel about a professional organizer. And given what I had learned from my experience with the professional publisher, with the big publisher, and that drive, I got the first book written.
Well, thank you for sharing. I think everyone has those authors that they absolutely love, or kind of like the light bulb goes off, and kind of, not that you model them off of, but you kind of grab inspiration from different places. So one thing kind of struck me as you were talking, and knowing that you also were a technical writer and you wrote a technical book, but now obviously you have your novels. Just out of curiosity, which do you feel is an easier type of book to write, and maybe which one do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy the technical, or do you enjoy more of the fictional, where you basically build your own world?
They're so different, but they aren't all that different. I mean, I do a lot of research before I write a novel about all the different things I'm going to be including in the novel, all the way down to, from naming the characters, like if it's an older person born in the 1920s, what were popular names in the 1920s for girls and boys? You don't want a 2021 name on a 1920 character. But I think now that I've written 3 novels and 2 books of short stories and created my Patience Oak Tree world, I enjoy the fiction more. But maybe that's because I don't want to sound creepy about it, but I've created this world that exists in my head. And I kind of enjoy going back and visiting those characters. Sometimes when I'm writing, I'll have an idea where I want to go. And then I get to a point and I go, this character would never do this. What am I thinking? This is out of character, because I know the characters so well.
Mhm.
So I enjoy that. But there is an ease of writing technical stuff in the sense that you create an outline, you follow the outline, you cover your subjects. It's like writing a term paper or anything else. You know what you need to cover, you know how long you have to cover it, and you get it done. And you can put in checklists and call outs and all those things that add pages to the book without a whole lot of effort. So, they're both good, but I think I'm going to stick with fiction now.
That's great to hear. It sounds like
Okay,
you're really enjoying it.
having said that, I have on the back burner in my office a nonfiction book I was thinking of writing.
So I know when we talked initially, and it was, I've had the pleasure of talking with a number of authors over the course of launching this series, and I found that every author has a new perspective. Every author has their own experience when writing their books or book or article, and they're all unique. And there were things that you had mentioned to me that I never even thought of. And I was wondering, could you tell us a little bit more about, what how your story has been unique? Things that, you had talked to me about the editing process, or, so for those who are aspiring to become authors, what are some pieces of advice that, you wish you knew about going into it? And then what are some things that you maybe surprised you as you were writing your books?
Well, I think we talked about, and this is true, that in writing fiction, I had trouble at first writing dialogue. And even if I go through the three novels today, I see a big transition from the first novel to the second novel in my writing of dialogue, because dialogue in a book is not a conversation like you and I are having
Sure.
right now, or the kind of conversation you have with the clerk at the grocery store. Hi, how are you today? How's your family? I mean, that's really boring writing in fiction. So that was a bit of a struggle for me. I think people who are thinking of becoming authors and becoming publishers of their own work have to look at a lot of different things. The first thing you need to know is who's your audience going to be? What format are they going to want to read your book in? Are they interested in having a book that has a nice feel and soft tones coming off of the paper that they can hold in their hand? Or is it the kind of book where they just need quick information and actually reading it on their cell phone will be just fine?
Mhm.
And I think that influences the way you write and then the way you publish. Um, you mentioned editors. When I did the technical book, there was a list of editors, probably 8 editors in the front of the book, all the different kinds of editors that the publisher provided to me for my book and who I had to interact with.
Mhm.
And the same thing was true then when I did my own books. I knew I needed a development editor, a continuity editor, um, a copy editor. These days, especially after the events of this past summer, we all now know that we need diversity editors,
Mhm.
people to make sure that you didn't inadvertently insult somebody
Sure.
or misrepresent a segment of the population. Um, and then you need, of course, proofreaders and all those things that go into it. So if you're doing it yourself, you need that whole team behind you. But if you aren't doing it yourself you're going with an established publishing house, you still have that team behind you. And you have to be prepared as an author to receive all those edits back and either approve them or change things, do something with the editing process.
Great. Yeah, I was like I said, I was definitely taken aback because I've never written a book. I've read a lot of books, but never really thought about all the things that go into it. So cover art and type of font and the thickness of the page, and there's a lot there. And knowing that you're self-published, that's impressive to know that all the things you had to do to get that book into people's hands.
Yeah, and I think the fact that I kind of like to take a project from start to finish helped me, because I was really interested in learning something about fonts. And I was really interested in learning about page layouts. And for some authors, they don't want anything to do with that. The creative process, the written word creative process is all that author wants to do.
Sure.
And for me, the whole creative process from start to finish was something that I wanted to do. Some authors don't even want the written word part of it. They just want the idea part of it. A lot of books are ghostwritten.
So I know that you have three books, correct? That are
Three
in print,
novels.
and you're working on another one right now. Three novels.
3 novels, 2 books of short stories.
Okay. And then
with
you're working
Patience
on
Oakley.
a fourth novel right now with Patience, right? Is that
I'm
correct?
not.
Oh, you're not.
Only
Okay.
in my head.
In
In
your
my
head. Okay.
head.
You're always
I
writing,
have
right? You're
so
always
many
gathering,
stories.
always
These
gathering stories.
characters live in my head.
Can you, I would love for you to share a little bit more about Patience and whet the appetite of, our viewers about, her story and maybe some of the mysteries and things that she deals with in her life as a character in your novels.
Okay, well, first, she's a little bit borderline chronically disorganized herself.
Okay.
So she's struggling with her own organization and her own ability to meet her own goals. She's a very caring person, and so she's always getting involved in things that are not terribly lucrative, but that she feels good about doing. And so she struggles. I'm running a business, but I'm not making enough money. One of her favorite things to tell her husband is, but I'm not running a charity. And he's always encouraging her to just do what she needs to do because she's doing good.
Okay.
So that's kind of her. She has a son and a daughter, both of whom were in college in the last book. By the next book, they will be on to their careers because kids got to grow up. Time has to move on. If you read the books, you see the progression of time. I mean, she had printed directions how to get to somebody's house. The next book, she's got GPS. The next book, she's listening to Siri on her phone or some disembodied voice, and who knows what she'll be doing by the next time. Anyway, she gets involved, and each book has a theme, obviously, because you need to have a plot. It's so the first one was about her being a little greedy and wanting to make more money, and so she took on a very speculative arrangement where her client had been promised by a rather domineering sister $100,000 if she could get herself organized and stay organized. And the client promised Patience Oaktree, Pat, $25,000 of it if she could help her. And then, the plot unfolds. There's this handsome guy next door. The client is interested in. The sister isn't really terribly genuine in her offer, but Pat is there helping this woman get organized. And so you see her walk her through her house and how she gets it organized. And that's pretty much, the plot of that book. The second book, Photographic Memories, is my personal favorite from a literature standpoint, because she's involved in repatriating a stolen World War II piece of art. She's organizing a photo collection for a museum, and she has a client who has a mystery photo that they're trying to find the missing person from the photo. And so all of those things are interwoven in that story. And I think it's probably the most solid piece of literature I've ever written.
Okay.
And the third book is called Heart of a Hoarder, and it's about a church group that wants to do good and gets involved in this church member's problems with the city because of his excessive stuff that's impacting the health and safety of the neighborhood. And so it's a lot about hoarding disorder in a kinder, gentler setting. And Pat, who's supposed to be on sabbatical writing her book, gets involved because she sees that the church group in their do-goodedness are doing wrongedness. And so she gets all involved with the people at the church and helping them.
Okay.
So those are the kinds of plots that go through. And there's organizing tips all throughout as she's helping these people do their stuff.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about that. I have no doubt our viewers will be interested in learning more about patience. I would be remiss if I did not have a professional organizer talking with me, and if I didn't ask for tips for not only those watching, but for me as well. What do you think are the most important things someone who's looking to get either their life or their space more organized? What are some of the things that you would recommend, just like quick things that they could do to make a difference?
Okay, well, I would say the first thing is you have to know what your vision is and then create a plan. So what are you trying to do? Know what your goal is before you start. And one of the big mistakes people make is they run out and buy organizing supplies. You don't even know what you are keeping yet. So, organize, then get what you need to keep it organized. That's a broad rule, if you will. And always organize for easy access and retrieval, not to make it look pretty, we see things these days like people organize their books by color. That looks pretty, and that's great if you're not a reader and you never want to, and you don't want to find the book. But unless you're one of these people, and there are some people that see everything in color, and so they know the book they want is green, that works. But otherwise, that's maybe not your best system. I'll give you a few practical tips.
Okay.
One of the all-time favorites, which I cannot claim as my own, is the backward hangers trick. And that is if you're trying to cull your wardrobe,
okay,
you can take everything that hangs in your closet, and usually we hang it with the hanger going over so you could pull the hanger right out. But if you turn everything so the hanger is backwards, and then as you wear things, when you put them back forwards. At the end of a year, you know that anything that is still hung backwards, with the hanger backwards, you have not worn. And that helps you make a decision as to whether to keep that or not.
That's ingenious.
That is also one of the tips that's in Heart of a Hoarder. Another thing I've run across with multiple clients, and I talk about it in Patience in the Porsche, is laundry baskets and hampers. I can't tell you how many homes I have been in where they have a laundry hamper. There's nothing in the hamper. All the dirty clothes are piled on top of the hamper. It's amazing how much organization you can have in your bedroom or your bathroom or wherever you have this hamper, if you just leave the lid open. And then I had one client who took it to an even greater level, had a walk-in closet, put 3 laundry baskets in the closet, and actually sorted the clothes by color as they went from her into the baskets. And so when one got full, she had a whole load of light clothes or dark clothes and could just take it down to the laundry and get it done. So there's another tip. A couple times in my books, we have clients with collections, and sometimes collections get out of hand. It started as you brought home 2 little toy giraffes, and then you found 3 more little ceramic giraffes. And then all your relatives got onto the fact that you liked giraffes. And 10 years later, you have 100 or 150 giraffes.
Yep.
And so, there are techniques to call that collection, which would involve what I always say is decide how many you want to keep. So you want to keep 20. Line up, take 20 of them, line them up from the one you like the least to the one you like the best. Take number 21, compare it to the one you like the least. Does it make the top 20 cut or not? Move it into position and just keep doing that till you've gone through them all and you have 20 left. So that's how I would suggest people could at least start looking at things that have gotten out of hand that are all of the same nature. Now, let me ask you, Eric, since
Sure.
you said tips for yourself, is there a tip on anything in particular that you would like?
Oh, geez. I am definitely a collector. As we're talking now, I am surrounded by both my daughter's Legos and my Legos from growing up.
All
And they
right.
are everywhere. But I really liked your what you had said about collecting and kind of figuring out what are the most important things that matter to you, and figuring out those things that you need to keep, and then other ones that might just not necessarily be as important. So I take that piece right there to heart. That's something I would definitely resonate with and reflect on as I figure out how do we organize our home better. So
Another thing you could
yeah.
do with collections is what museums do, which is you put some of them in storage.
Yep.
And you rotate them. So, okay, we're going to display the collection of cameras for 2 months, and then we're going to pack it back up and display the collection of teacups for 2 months. And maybe even some of them can be themed. I mean, we all get out holiday decorations at holiday time.
Yep.
And as you put them away, each time you clean them and you sort them. And so it's a constant but manageable chunk of curating your collection all the time. One of the things I tell people with holiday decorations is, as you put them away, take the ones you didn't use or the ones you aren't really ever going to want to display anymore, put them in a separate box wherever you store those decorations. Put that box as the first one that will come out and label it donate in October. Just open up the cabinet in October, take it to a thrift store. They're putting out their holiday stuff and it's gone. Nobody wants your stuff when you go through it in January and February. Those thrift stores don't want Santa Clauses then.
That's true. Well, thank you so much for taking some time today to talk about your books and organizing and share your stories and how you became a self-published author. I really appreciate it. Tell us once again how our watchers can learn more about Patience, Oak Tree, the novels, and your story as an author. What's your website again?
The website is reallyorganized.com.
Great.
All the books are there. You can listen to the first couple chapters of each one. There are bulk discounts. You can get autographed copies, and there are book club reading guides as well, if anybody wants to have a book club read through the books. They're also available on Amazon, but I will say that although it's one click for a lot of people, Amazon doesn't keep a huge inventory. And to be a little mercenary, I make basically nothing off of an Amazon sale. I'm happy to make it available, but they're always available at reallyorganized.com, as well as I have a blog that I sometimes update, and there's other information there as well. So
great. Thanks, Val. And thank you again for taking time today. I really appreciate you sharing your experiences and your knowledge with our alumni community. But before I bid you all farewell today, I wanted to let you know you can find more information about all of our upcoming programs and our recordings of our previous programs on our John Carroll University Alumni and Friends website. These include our other Alumni Authors Series discussions, our ACES, our Alumni Continuing Education Series called ACES, where you can connect our alums to outstanding JCU faculty, God in All Things, our spiritual programming, and JCU Junior, our program for kids. More information about all these programs and recordings can be found at jcu.edu/alumni. Thank you all for joining us today. Take care, be well, and onward on John Carroll.